We come to the presentation, to the preparation for the presentation. First and foremost, know your material. Remember I talked to you about the 3 rules? Do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. Know your material. And that is why I usually advise people, never make somebody else's pitch. Now don't take that literally. If you want to help somebody out and you want to make their pitch, that's fine. But then ensure that you know that material as well as, if not better than, the person whose pitch you are making. Which also means that the person who is making your pitch cannot just come to you or send you a message saying, please go and do this thing tomorrow morning, I don't have the time. Do not accept it. If they want you to make their pitch, they need to sit with you and go through all of that and ensure that you understand it, that you understand how they understand it, and you understand what it is that they want out of the audience, because it is their presentation, it is their pitch. If that time is not available to you, don't touch it. So know your material absolutely inside out. Second one is know your equipment. Peter's principle applies in presentations more than anywhere else. If it can go wrong, it will. I'm going to come back to this in a bit, but just now let me say this to you. Know your equipment. One is, what equipment? Believe me, some of the most powerful presentations that I have seen were done without any equipment. Just extempore speaking, or people using the most, within quotes, low-tech equipment, which is charts. I will tell you a story about that when I come to that particular thing, but no bells and whistles, no technology, nothing, but extremely powerful presentations which people remember years and years after they listen to them. So know your equipment. Does it work properly? Is it the best equipment for the presentation? And know what to do if it fails. I have a rule that any presentation I make anywhere, I have 3 backups. I have 1 backup on the cloud. I have another backup on a USB drive in my pocket. And the presentation itself, I email it to the person at whose place I'm making that presentation. So there is a backup, there is a presentation on the computer. So even if that computer dies, I've got a USB drive. If the USB drive dies, I can download it from the net, from the cloud. 3 backups. Now you might say, well, I'm being overly conscious. Believe me, I'm not. I was once making not just a presentation, I was doing a training course for a very large multinational pharmaceutical company, and this presentation was for the top management in a retreat that was happening in Bangalore. I always go early, so I went early, and I was sitting at my table with a cup of coffee next to my laptop. Somebody walks into the room, knocks against the table, and the cup of coffee empties itself into my keyboard. The screen went zzz, and the laptop died. I have this very critical thing to do in front of this whole audience. Now obviously the audience was not there yet, mercifully, and that's the benefit of going early. But what did I do? I pulled out the USB from my pocket. I asked the HR manager who had come there for his laptop. Now I had emailed the presentation to him. I'm explaining to you why 3 backups are required, and all 3 were used that day. So my computer died. The HR manager to whom I had emailed the computer, emailed the presentation, he tells me at that time, I said, can I have your computer? He says, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to download the presentation. There was some problem. So second backup gone, but I had the USB. I pull it out of my pocket, stick it in the computer, and I was good to go. Now obviously that cup of coffee cost them a lot of money. But the point is that if you don't have those backups, in that situation, what would I have done? I can tell you that I know my stuff well enough to teach it even without the aid, but believe me, that does not go down well with the client. So always, always, always know your equipment. Why are you using that? And what will you do if it fails? We come to the audience now. Know their culture. Know the culture of the audience. You know, one of the most powerful things to do in presentations is to use similes, is to use metaphors, is to do little role plays and so on. Of course, all of this depends on how much time you have. But I'm talking, when I'm saying presentations, I'm not just sticking to a speech. I'm also saying if you are running a workshop, if you're doing a training program. So you might use all of this. But I'll tell you how some things can go very wrong. I was teaching a course. I was actually auditing a course, a GE course, and this was in the Western Hotel in Bangalore. There was an American trainer who was teaching the course. Just before the tea break, this was a course about, it was a negotiating skills course. And she used a simile. She used actually a little role play she wanted to do. So she called two people. And she said to them, you are the daughter, you are the mother. And you, the daughter, are going to convince the mother to go into an old age home because you can't take care of, you don't have the ability, or you are too busy or whatever to take care of her. So this is the negotiation. Now, there was dead silence. Dead silence. Total lack of enthusiasm. These two people, they looked hugely uncomfortable, and then they backed out. So she said, okay, no problem. I mean, can I have some volunteers, please? Would somebody else like to volunteer for this role play? Zero. Now, I knew instantly what was wrong. But this young woman, she was straight out of the US. She didn't really understand the Indian culture and so on. And she was flabbergasted. She really, I mean, she got very uncomfortable. Obviously, it was she didn't know what to do. Mercifully, that was the time for the break. So I said to her, why don't we take a break? We took the break. She came, we went aside. She said to me, what happened? What did I do wrong? I said, you're talking to Indians in India. We do not send our parents to old age homes. People make sacrifices. They look after their parents. They do not send them to old age homes. Now, having said that, this happened 20 years ago. I don't think I can say that today anymore. Things have changed in this country as well. But however, the point I'm making here is, then she understood. She said, oh my God, I used the wrong example. I said, exactly. So the point is that make sure that the similes, the metaphors, the role plays, whatever you want to do, are good for the culture. Sometimes it can go very badly wrong because you use similes or something which are taboos in the culture, right? So make sure that you understand that culture and what certain words mean and what certain gestures mean. Know the audience. Now, if you are speaking at a big conference, it's unrealistic to imagine that you can know everybody. You can't know everybody, but at least you must know the key people to whom you are talking. In smaller presentations, which is what you will probably do all your life, business presentations and otherwise, it is absolutely critical to know who is it that you are talking to. What is that company? What is that culture? How do they like the material to be presented? Are these people who are going to be touched by personal stories, by anecdotes, by histories, or are these people focused on numbers and figures? What is it that will convince the audience? So knowing the audience is extremely important, and as I keep saying all the time, what will put them off, to know that is even more important. So Hannah, you might say, well, how can I do a complete investigation of people? You don't need to do that. All you need to do is talk to other people, go and do a Google search, look at cultural issues which might be affecting in that situation if you are talking in a different culture. If it's not a different culture, talk to somebody who has spoken to that kind of audience or that particular audience before. Get some feedback. So you're not going into that presentation blind. You are going there with some knowledge, and then use your own skills, use your own ability to understand people, their body language and so on, to guide you going ahead. One of the most common things that you and I will use, as I'm also using in this presentation, is slides. The purpose of a slide has two purposes. First one is to hook the attention of the audience. So what you write on the slides, think about them as headlines. You're not writing the whole story on the slide, you're just writing headlines. The headline must be something which hooks the attention of the audience. And the second purpose of the slide is to remind you of what you want to say. So now if I have a presentation with 50 slides, I don't have to carry the whole thing in my head. I just need to look at the slide and talk. Hook the attention of the audience. Remind me about what I need to say. The slide is not your script, so do not read the slide. People to whom you are speaking are educated, they can read the slide. You don't need, if you are reading the slide, you're wasting their time and your time. Don't read the slide. Your visuals. What kind of visuals must you have on the slides? I use what I call the 4x4 rule. Not more than 4 words to a bullet, not more than 4 bullets to a slide. That's a good rule to use, because then your slide is not cluttered up with a whole lot of words and letters. It's easy on the eye, readability is good, enough white space, it is clear. Not 4x4, not more than 4 words to a bullet, not more than 4 bullets to a slide. Numbers. This is a big issue with a lot of us. Almost every business presentation that you are going to be doing will have some numbers in it. Financial numbers, trend numbers, demographic numbers, sales numbers and figures. Something or the other that has to do with numbers. Never express numbers as numbers on a slide. There is nothing which kills the brain faster than seeing a spreadsheet on a slide. Never project spreadsheets. Express the numbers as graphs, as trends, as pie charts to show you market segmentation, whatever it is, bar charts, line graphs, things which are visual, which are pictorial. Never put numbers as numbers. Third thing is graphics. Powerful and a double-edged sword. A graphic which is extremely powerful. For example, many of you would remember there was this picture of this starving child with a vulture in the same frame. There was a vulture waiting for that starving child to die. I'm sure almost everybody has seen that picture. Now, there's nothing more powerful than that picture. But is that the message? Does that picture support whatever message that you want to convey? That's the point. A graphic must support your words. It must not distract your audience, and it must not take away from what you are saying. So be careful about graphics. Never, never, never use graphics which are distracting. PowerPoint, for example, or other graphics programs, for example, have a lot of graphics which are moving. So you've got something which is dancing in the corner. Please don't do that. It destroys your presentation. Graphics must not destroy your presentation. That line in the bottom, PowerPoint can't make a lousy presentation great. This is a line from the person I learned presentation skills from, which is Bill Lane, who was the presentation consultant and speechwriter of Jack Welch, the chairman of General Electric at that time. I went to a course which Bill Lane taught in GE Corporate University in Crotonville, where I am also on the Crotonville consulting staff for leadership development. I have been there from 1994 onwards. I teach GE courses, and I have taught GE courses in multiple countries across the world. Bill Lane taught us that course on presentation skills, and this was his line. He said, PowerPoint cannot make a lousy presentation great. I think it's a wonderful line, well worth remembering. Do not think that technology will take the place of your thought, will take the place of your presentation skill. It will not. Technology can support you, technology will support you, but the content of the presentation, the delivery of the presentation is from yourself. It's not the technology. I love this quote of Jack Welch, which was in Harvard Business Review. He said, insecure managers create complexity. Frightened, nervous managers use thick, convoluted planning books and busy slides filled with everything they have known since childhood. Real leaders do not need clutter. And believe me, that is so important. As I said before, the slide is not your script. What you need to say has to be in your heart, has to be in your mind, cannot be on the slide. The slide is there to hook the attention of the audience because of the headline and to remind you what you want to say.